Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything Pistons, and news writer for Sports Illustrated.
And Blake, we are recording just after Christmas and after that Utah loss for the Detroit Pistons. But before we get into any of that, just wanted to ask, how's the little guy doing? Because we had to postpone our last episode to after the holiday here because Blake Silverman came down with a little bit of a bug. And I mean, if you guys have kids, you know how that goes. So we appreciate your sympathy, of course. But how's the little champ?
Oh man, he's doing good. Definitely won't get into details because no one wants to hear it. But it was like our first during the night sickness, so it was a lot and didn't get much sleep. So apologies to all the listeners that we didn't record, but you didn't want to hear me on like a few hours of sleep trying to put coherent thoughts together. But all good now, so appreciate it and hope everyone had a good holidays, Christmas, whatever you did. So yeah, thanks for checking in.
Well, let's start here because we got this question on the Pistons Pulse. I thought it was a fun one, so I'm going to steal it. I can't remember the commenter who asked it, but favorite Christmas or holiday tradition for you guys? What is it?
Ooh, that's a good. So I mean, I'm sure everyone can tell by my last name, but I'm Jewish, so I grew up like not celebrating Christmas, and my wife is Catholic, so I've celebrated Christmas with her family and everything. So I've sort of learned all the Christmas traditions like later in life. And one of my favorite things that my father-in-law does is my mother-in-law is in charge of all the gifts and everything. I'm sure it's the same for most families across the board, but he's in charge of like filling her stocking. And it's always just the most hilarious gifts like toothpaste and stuff like that. So I've sort of stolen that and just filled my wife's stocking with the most random stuff I could find from the drugstore. Like this year she got a toothbrush, a little pack of Fig Newtons and stuff, and some of her favorite candies, like, and not all of it was gag jokes, but that's always, I love seeing like my mother-in-law and now my wife opening their stockings on Christmas.
Nice. Do you guys ever take the little mini shampoos and whatnot from the hotels? Like, because I feel like that'd be a good one to stuff in the stocking along those along that line.
That's a good call. Yeah, I did throw some chapstick in there.
Nice.
So all like usable gifts, nothing like, but it's just like, I'm sure if you were a kid opening that stuff on Christmas, you'd just be like, what the heck?
Oh yeah, it's like the socks thing. When you're a kid, you don't want to get socks, and then now as an adult, most of my socks have holes in them. I love getting socks. It's like perfect. I needed these. These are great. Same thing, I'm sure, with the toothpaste and all that. No, for me, mine's not even around Christmas. It's a little bit before. Our family goes and cuts down a Christmas tree like the weekend after Thanksgiving, and I have a hard embargo on any Christmas music, holiday music at all until we go and get the tree. Like the tree has to be imminent before the music can turn on in the car. So I look forward to that. Makes it a little bit more scarce, kind of like a date to look forward to. And then boom, it's the holiday season and you jump all in. But so that would be mine. I like the stocking thing though. I might have to steal that.
The Christmas tree one is good. We don't do the real tree over here, and my wife is a big holiday person, so I know it's a controversial subject, but pretty much November 1st she's like decorating the house for Christmas and playing Christmas music.
No, that's way. Don't steal my Thanksgiving. You can't do that to me. I love Thanksgiving.
It's not even just that. Like I'd say early September, we're getting like Halloween decorations up, and now my son's like he'll be 2 in February, so he gets it, but he doesn't get like everything. So he'll still be trying to listen to like Christmas music in like July, I'm sure, but he loves it, which is fun.
I saw someone, I forget who it was on Twitter, a Pistons fan, but showed their Spotify Wrapped, and Brenda Lee's "Rocking Around the Christmas Tree" was the number one song because I think it's their son loves it and just plays it year round on the way to school.
Oh yeah.
So that's perfect.
Yeah, you get all those. Like my listening age, all my friends were like laughing because theirs were like saying that they're 60 or 70-year olds, and mine was 23, which I'm sure is because it's a mix of listening to like the young kids stuff and some older stuff too. So I guess at least he keeps me young, which is a good thing.
Have we considered your friends just have really old taste in music?
Oh yeah, that too.
Because like 23 is much closer to our actual age. I mean, it's definitely under, but it's a little bit more defensible than 65.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I'm sure some of it was me too, like listening to music. That's probably a little too young for me. So yeah, definitely was able to give them a little bit of crap about that too.
All right. Well, let's dive into that Utah loss. One the Pistons really shouldn't have dropped, but it's not like Utah's a terrible team. They've got some good talent out there. So yeah, and they were on a 4-game losing streak. But let's break down exactly what happened. We had a pretty good game from Cade Cunningham, 29 points, 17 assists, one off his career high, if I remember correctly from the cast. He had 5 rebounds, right? Yeah, 5 rebounds, 3-6 from 3, 10-19 from the floor. Pretty good. I think the big storyline from this is probably it's going to focus a lot on Jalen Duren, but to me, this was the center play as well, because not only does Duren get in foul trouble, and that limits him to only 22 minutes. And by the time he's got that 4th foul, those minutes at this point aren't all that impactful defensively. Isaiah Stewart had a rough go of it too. It was 26 minutes for him, but 2 of 7 from the floor, 0 of 2 from 3. He did have 3 blocks, which was great, but not even all that impactful as a rebounder either, only 4. So this was just kind of a rough game for the center position in Detroit. Paul Reed didn't make a shot in his 4 minutes. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, tough. I mean, it obviously, yeah, like you said, a tough loss, one you don't want to drop. In the same vein, it's not the end of the world. This team is still 24-7, first in the East. But the big story coming out of that is defense for me. I mean, you give up 131 points to the Jazz coming off a game where you won, but you gave up 127 points to the Kings. So want to try to limit that. And like you said, the Jazz, they're 11-19. They're not a bad team, but they're also, it's a team that you should beat when you're at the top of the East and all that. And I think there are some things we can definitely talk about, like mainly Keontae George's game winner, where Utah pretty much sees Karis LeVert guarding the ball and they choose not to call a timeout. So that was questionable for sure, but I don't think that's the only storyline defensively. Like you brought up Isaiah Stewart, he had a few blocks, but I think there were even some points where Utah was able to score around the rim where he was out there too. So I'm not like, this team is going to have bad games, and I think this was one of them. And luckily the offense kept them in it a bit. A great game from Cade. He had like 9 assists in the first quarter, which was just unreal. But yeah, when Jalen Duren's in foul trouble and Asar Thompson's not out there for whatever reason that was, the guys who are on the floor need to find ways to make more impact defensively. I thought Javonte Green did a good job of that at points, but yeah, when Utah is able to target like Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, and there's some guys that are making shots that probably shouldn't. Like I look at Kevin Love, who was 3 of 5 from 3, and I think he also got fouled on a 3-point attempt too. So it's mainly they just weren't able to stick up defensively, and that'll happen. It's not the end of the world. This team has been good defensively throughout the year. So definitely not panic mode by any means, but it's a game that you want to see them get, which is tough on a West Coast swing, and they win those first 2 games. So that was great. Definitely want to see them get this one. It didn't happen in the end. So yeah, hopefully when they play the Clippers in their next game, they'll find a way to lock them down a bit more, which won't be easy there either. And yeah, I'm hoping it was just an off night overall.
And you mentioned some of the unfortunate, like, Kevin Love going 3 for 5. There were some other elements of the Pistons game, I think, on self-inflicted, that were just poorly timed. Like that foul that you brought up on Kevin Love for 3. I'm pretty sure that was in the fourth quarter on Dennis Jenkins, and that was the Pistons were getting a little bit of momentum. And then you get that foul on a 3-pointer, and, well, the momentum kind of gets pulled out of your sails. The Pistons, I don't believe, scored a basket, did not score a field goal beyond free throws from like minute 4 to minute 1 in the fourth quarter. Somewhere they had about a 3-minute stretch right down near the end of the game where they couldn't put the ball in the hoop. Like on a night where they scored 129 points, so you can't really say offense was much of an issue here, but they just the coming out of the halftime locker room, and you're a little cold and just not sharp defensively, and the Jazz go on that big old run. Same thing to start the game, really, too. So they just had some really poorly timed lapses. I think the descriptor, if I had to put this game in just a few words, I would say not sharp. Right, that's just kind of what it looked like from Detroit, and maybe you could point to a million things for it. We already talked about the center position, just overall not doing all that well. Duncan Robinson was not pleasant to watch defensively off ball. It was interesting seeing the Jazz target him as a movement guy. Defensively, they had a beautiful play to Svi Mikhailuk where they had 2 guys running off kind of a flat screen up at the 3-point line. Svi goes first. Keontae George, I think, gets it second, just following him a few steps behind. And then Svi keeps curling around and then cuts back door to the rim. Easy little dunk for him. I was designed action to get Svi to just run away from Duncan Robinson. Really smart by Will Hardy doing that as a sideline out of bounds play. But there was quite a bit of that with Duncan Robinson. Asar Thompson, 16 minutes. Was that like out? Did you see anything? Any comment on that after the game? Like, I'm guessing altitude, but I don't know what.
Yeah, all I've seen, I haven't seen any official. I'm sure someone asked JB about it, so we'll have to look into that. But all I saw was Pistons Twitter wondering the same thing that we are. I mean, I saw Koo from Locked On Pistons point out like maybe it was his asthma that was getting to him, so maybe that was it. But yeah, when you have Karras that's guarding the Keontae George, who's going off for 29 points at that point and then hits a game winner, you definitely want your best on-ball defender on him in that scenario, and that didn't happen. I was surprised we weren't getting some like defense, offense subs, and I mean, credit to Utah. They see that and they just go for it. But yeah, it was definitely not what you wanted defensively. So I'm sure there was something going on. But like, I don't mean to pick on Karras because he was good. He made some big shots throughout the night, but obviously he's not the tier of defender that you want with the primary assignment in that play. But yeah, hopefully when they get back to a lower altitude, we see more minutes from Asar Thompson, because 16 minutes in a game where defense was the problem definitely isn't what you want to see.
I was going to defend Karras for a second too, because honestly, that game-winning shot from Keontae George was one heck of a shot. I mean, that was a tough off-balance floater. He got a little contact on it too, not enough where you'd think that the ref would ever call foul on that, especially so late in the game in that situation. But like, he was fighting through some contact, tough off-balance Euro step floater over Jalen Duren's outreaching arm, skying way above the rim, and then it just nestles right into the net like that. I mean, that that's props to George. I actually thought Karras did a pretty good job cutting off his first angle and making him take a really difficult look, given the fact that, like you said, he's not an all NBA defender. So that's not our expectation here. I thought he did a pretty good job on that one. Now, that's not to say the rest of the game he was an amazing defender. He wasn't, but he did rise to that moment. I thought it was just a heck of a shot. And, that's the thing with this Utah team, man. Like, they can score. Keontae George is a great young offensive player. Lauri Markkanen, is he still averaging almost 30 a game this season? He scored 30 against Detroit. Yeah, he's good. Nurkic had kind of a time machine game here. He's not usually the guy we saw, but he's still a talented big. He can pass the ball. He can shoot. He's a little bit of that throwback game with a jump shot, a little Jonas Valanciunas-esque there, I think. But yeah, they're just Bryce Sensabaugh too. Shout out to that kid. 20 points, 7 of 15 from the floor, 3 of 8 from 3. I thought he was really impactful defensively, and that shows up with the 2 steals there. Did have 3 turnovers, but yeah, I thought he had a really nice night, and you could notice he was making an impact on Cade. He was making an impact on some of the other guards that the Pistons were throwing out there just with that physical defense. And he's got a good body for it too. He's probably 225, somewhere in that range. So I was impressed with him. He had a nice night.
Yeah, and just to go back to Lauri, he's averaging 27.8 points a game, which is 10th in the NBA. It's more than Austin Reeves, more than Cade Cunningham, more than James Harden. So yeah, he's still able to score. And yeah, you brought up Nurkic. Like, that's a player archetype. I know he's had good games specifically against the Pistons in the past, but he's the type of guy who will give the Pistons some trouble. And he didn't go crazy by any means, but he had a really nice night with 16, 11, and 5. So yeah, it's a team that will fight. And they're not like horrible by any means, and they have some good young players like we saw with Keontae George and Bryce Sensabaugh doing, and Kevin Love's still out there on top of Lauri Markkanen. So it's a tough one to drop. You don't want to drop these games, especially against a team like the Utah Jazz, but they're going to score, like you said, and you need to find ways to limit that as best as possible. And the offense needs to keep up, which they did. It was definitely sluggish at times, and there were long stretches where shots weren't falling, which was tough. And, I thought if the Pistons forced overtime, they would probably win the game. It's not a guarantee, especially with Jalen Duren at 5 fouls, Isaiah Stewart at 4. And I thought I liked the move on the last second chance for the Pistons to win it. And I like giving Cade the ball. He's going to get a lot of attention, but also Jalen Duren had Keontae George switched onto him and was fairly open. So that was an option there too. It's just a tough game overall. The ball is not always going to bounce your way every night. And credit to them for at least giving themselves a chance to win in a night where they were clearly off. But hopefully you see a bounce back when they hit the floor next against the Clippers.
Yeah, and it wasn't a bad look from Cade too. I wish he was going for the shot more so than trying to draw the foul, because I do think if he was clearly playing for the contact. He got the bump he wanted. He thought he was going to get that whistle. That's tough. The refs usually don't call that kind of foul in that type of spot. I know earlier this season, Cade did get that look with the kind of half-court heave there against I can't remember who they were playing.
Boston?
Was it Boston? I think it was Boston.
That controversial foul.
Right, where it was a foul. It was
floor.
A shooting foul, but did you really call that in that spot? Usually you let that go. That was what this was. So it's honestly a good thing that they didn't call the foul. So I'm not making that argument. I just wish Cade was looking for the shot more so, because I do think he had an opportunity the way that Sensabaugh reared back to avoid the content. I think he could have risen straight up and tried to get a pretty normal looking shot off, if not off balance. But you live with that, right? You want to put the ball in your best player's hands at the end of a game. I'm comfortable with it too. If Duren had not been in foul trouble all night, only had 22 minutes and 7 shot attempts to his name in this game. I would have been right there with you. Like, get him the ball there on that switch, see if he can make something happen in 2 seconds. However, he was not in rhythm, as was pretty obvious for most of that night. It is kind of a trend with him. If he gets in foul trouble, that's pretty much the only thing that can destabilize his offensive game. Not like he played poorly, 5 of 7 from the floor. He had 11 points, 4 rebounds, but he did have 4 turnovers and just kind of looked out of rhythm after he got knocked out of his cadence early on in the game. But last thing to come out of this game, free throws, because that's the difference, man. So it's not like the Pistons really got, ran off the court in terms of free throw attempts. There was, I know that I think I saw some ref controversy or something online on Twitter during and after this game. But look, the Jazz shot 26, the Pistons shot 23. That's close enough to say that's a hand wave margin. The difference here is the Pistons were 15 of 23. The Jazz were 25 of 26. Look, you make 3 more free throws, you win this game. Mm-hmm. So the big difference, Cade Cunningham, 6 of 9. There's your 3, because Lauri Markkanen, 10 of 10. Yusuf Nurkic, 3 of 3. Keontae George, 2 for 2. Kevin Love, 5 for 5. We can keep going down the line here. That to me, for all the defensive letdowns, for all the kind of iffy rhythm that the team had offensively, this was why they lost the game. They could have stolen a win here if they just made their free throws.
Yeah, and I think the discourse followed. I believe it might have been toward the end of the first half, but potentially in the second half, there was a point where the Pistons were 3 for 9 from the foul line as a team. And at that same point, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the Jazz were like 14 of 15 or something like that. So I like you said, toward the end of the game, the attempts were fairly even. And yeah, Cade missed at least like 1. I'm not sure if all of his misses from the foul line came in the fourth quarter, but he definitely...
I think he had 1 earlier. He split at the stripe in the second quarter, I think.
Okay. Yeah, but he had some misses as well. And yeah, I mean, 65% from the foul line as a unit is not what you want to see. And I mean, Ivy was 0 for 2, Asar was 2 for 4. So you could look at those Cade free throws and, like you said, say there's the win right there. Like Lauri Markkanen was 10 of 10 from the foul line. Not expecting Cade to make every single free throw, but
Cade and Ivy 0 for 2,
yeah.
Can't have that either. It wasn't, not just Cade. It wasn't just Cade. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, like you said, that's definitely an area you can look to on top of the defense, because I mean, turnovers, it ended up even. Both teams had 17 turnovers, but there was a point where Utah was turning the ball over much more than the Pistons were. So yeah, when you get to the foul line, you gotta connect. It wasn't there. And you're not always going to play a team that goes 25 of 26 from the foul line. And it ended up biting the Pistons. So hopefully it's something that they can address as well, because yeah, you need to connect on the 3-1s when you get those opportunities.
All right. So we did have a question about the fouls, just foul issue, right? Ref thing, because that's now been a big talking point since that Dallas Mavericks game, and justifiably so, especially with that game. But I want to highlight this before we move on to that. So, apologize for the poor hosting here, because we're going to talk free throws and then now something else and then back to free throws. So that's my bad, but I can't let this slip. How about, just to end on a positive note here with this Jazz game, Cade Cunningham, 17-4 assists to turnovers.
Yeah. I mean, incredible.
Good Lord. Jaden Ivey was 4-1. Cade beat that, if my math's correct here. Cade was better than 4-1 assists to turnovers on a night where he had 17 assists.
Yeah, yep. Slightly better than that. And I mean, he was on pace for like the single game assist record, and he was one off his career high of 18 assists. And just it felt like, I mean, you see those stats every night where Cade has scored and assisted on nearly all of the Pistons points when he's on the floor, and those are the type of players that are the stars in this league. Like if you watch a Lakers game, you'll see the same thing about Luka. Nuggets, the same thing with Jokic. And I mean, Jokic is clearly just on another level, but when you're able, and the Pistons just as a team, I thought they did a good job making the right plays, having assists on most of their buckets, or the great majority of them. So it would have been awesome to see him get to 20 assists, or even more than that with the pace that he was going. But yeah, he had a really good game. The foul shots thing aside, like you said, that's not only on him to bear. But yeah, what a game from Cade Cunningham, just making the offense flow in general. He was clearly just making all the right reads right at the start of the night with the incredible first quarter that he had. And there were probably, all your teammates aren't going to make all their shots every night, but there were probably like 4 or 5 assists that were left on the table that he made the right play and the shot didn't fall. And you could say the same thing. Like he definitely did have a few passes that led directly to a foul. And obviously you don't get an assist for that. I believe the Euro League actually counts that as an assist, which would be cool. But yeah, just incredible game from Cade overall. And scoring wise, he comes out a little slow, but that's because he's making he had like 9 assists in the first quarter, and he still ends the game with 29 points and 17 assists and 5 rebounds. So just an awesome night from him.
I mean, I know he had 4 turnovers. I can only think of one bad decision he made. Unfortunately, it was in the fourth quarter where he tried that little hook skip pass, and it led directly to a dunk for the Jazz on the other end when the Pistons really, that was a bad 4-point swing. But that was, I mean, he was a maestro out there. He could go wherever he wanted. He could get whatever look he wanted. And it's an amazing night and just kind of fun to watch. Context of the game aside, when a guy is so good, he's so in the zone for a game where not only can he get whatever shot he wants on the floor, but against the Jazz, it felt like Cade could get whatever shot he wanted for his teammates on the floor too. 13 assists, I think, in the first half. Unbelievable. There was no answer for him. Whatever he wanted to do, he was doing it. And it was to the extent that he was getting his teammates whatever shot he wanted for them, which that's impossible. I don't know how he did that. So that was one heck of a night from Cade. Unfortunate that they didn't come with a win, but this is the kind of stuff where you have a game like this, league takes notice. Let's start the All-NBA first team push. I think he's right there. This is the kind of thing that those guys do. He's right there.
Oh yeah, I do too. And I mean, I think the list for first team NBA right now is probably, I mean, it's definitely long at this point, but he's certainly in that conversation. And about this game specifically, like you brought up how Duren wasn't able to find a rhythm, but there was a stretch in the third quarter where Cade was really making things happen for Jalen Duren and getting him great shots and finding everything. And when you're able to get your teammates going who maybe aren't able to find that rhythm, like that's just enough. Like there are very few players who are able to do that. And we know the dynamic between Cade and Duren and how awesome it's been. So when he's able to do that, when Jalen Duren is in early foul trouble and he's not able to make as much of an impact offensively, I think that's a good just like little thing that you can take from this game. Even though it was a loss, like that was awesome to see from Cade as well.
All right, so let's go into a question here, as I mentioned, about the foul stuff. So we'll start with this. This is from Ramester in the DBB comments. Says, why do some refs seemingly hate us? Shout out to, was it John Goebbels, right? Was that the name?
Yeah.
That was really bad in that Dallas game. But to direct to the question, are there systemic disadvantages being created? Could you look at the foul discrepancy metric and see which team is benefiting the most from calls? So the Pistons, just to throw all these stats right at you, and then let's get your reactions, Blake. The Pistons commit the most fouls in the NBA. They also draw the second most fouls in the NBA. So right there, it doesn't seem like there's too much of a leaning one way or another. But I ran the numbers, okay? So I went to NBA.com. I downloaded all this into an Excel spreadsheet. So this is true as of December 27th. All right, this is updated as we are today, as of our recording. So first, foul differential. Fouls drawn minus fouls committed, all right, for the team as the whole. The Pistons are 17th. All right, they're just about average. Our top five in the league, the Lakers, Nuggets, Hornets, Rockets, and Spurs. And only 0.9 fouls separate those two teams. And that foul differential, the Lakers, it's at 2.7. All right, so it's not actually a lot of fouls. That's really the difference here. They are 21st in free throw differential. So now we're going a step further. All right, so it's not just the fouls drawn, but are those shooting fouls? So we're looking at free throws attempted for the team, and we're subtracting opponent free throws attempted for the team. The Pistons are 21st, but you'll note that that's pretty close to 17th. All right, because there's a little bit of wiggle room in this. Our top five, Lakers, Spurs, Magic, Heat, Hornets, and only 2.8 free throws are separating the Lakers from the Hornets there. What do you think about it? Is there any sort of bias you're seeing here, at least in the numbers or with your own eyes when you're watching the Pistons? Do these numbers help or hurt you in that opinion that you have? What are you thinking with all this?
I mean, I think if you're looking at Detroit specifically, like, it's gotten better from this year to last year. And I think that's talking to the season that the Pistons had last year, the breakout that Cade Cunningham has had individually, because, I mean, it's not perfect, but if you look at the top five teams that you named in both sides, one commonality for most of these teams is they have a incredible, like, superstar that is probably going to get fouls. I mean, it is interesting that the Thunder aren't in either of these groups with all the talk around Shea and all that. But I mean, the Lakers, you have Luka and LeBron, Denver's up there in foul differential, and the Spurs are there in both. So, I mean, I think because the Pistons are middle of the road, but maybe toward the bottom in both of these areas, I think it's something to monitor and just the eye test. Some of these games, you've definitely seen some discrepancies that hurt the Pistons. Other nights you've seen discrepancies the other way, which I think is just always going to be the case. But I think Cade specifically getting to the line has been a talking point, and he's done better at it this year. I think it's a little just how he's going at things personally. Maybe a little bit of it is getting a more respectable whistle as he's growing into this superstar in the league. Overall, I mean, it would be nice to see the Pistons more toward the top of both of those stats, but I don't think that's really how JB Bickerstaff wants this team to play. And we've seen JB get frustrated with the officiating at numerous points throughout the year. So you just want it to not hinder what you're trying to do. And I think the foul discrepancies, both just like team fouls and free throws, have hurt the Pistons at times, but I don't think it's drastic toward the sense of it's gonna hurt their ability to win games night in and night out. Like we've seen what this team has done so far this year. So overall, I think it's a good thing to monitor, but I don't think that it's necessarily the biggest issue with this team. And I mean, there aren't many. There are things that we can talk about, but what they're doing so far has worked. So I don't think I want to see them like play for fouls as much. Like it's important, but I don't think you have to go into a game like trying to hunt fouls as much.
Yeah, I agree. Like by every account, by every metric that we could look at, the issues just that the Pistons commit a lot of fouls. And you look at their play style and you should hear that fact and say, oh yeah, that makes sense, because they are a really physical defensive team. That's kind of what they're hanging their hat on. So it shouldn't be too surprising that they get called for it. I think historically Cade has had a real argument, so to speak, with officials in the past. He certainly had gotten fouled a lot more than he was getting free throws for. But like you look at it this year, he's tied for 17th in the league in free throw attempts per game. He's at 7.1, and you look at like Luka up at the top, almost at 12. Giannis is second, 9.8. So you could say, well, maybe Cade needs another free throw and a half per game or something. But like if you look at this list, it's not obvious that he's getting some sort of slight here. I mean, he's right in a group with Nikola Jokic, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy Butler's right there, Joel Embiid's right there, Ant Edwards is right there, Trae Young is right there. So like 10 to 17 is about a half foul per game. Yeah, sorry, a half free throw per game. It's not like there's this huge gap between, these other all NBA guys like I guess James Harden. Are you going to still put him in that category? He's at 7.6. He's seventh. Like it seems to me like, he's actually at 8.5. He makes 7.6 per game. That's James Harden. I misspoke with James Harden. He's seventh. Regardless, it seems to me like I'm noticing more conversation with officials over the past few weeks. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. On the one hand, you kind of want your all NBA caliber superstar to be leaning on the officials a little bit. So I'm good with it in that way. But at the same time, you're not going to get a free throw every single time you go to the lane. I mean, Luka's shooting 12 of them a night, but that's not even true for him. And we all know that Luka complains quite a bit too. So we'll have to see long run if this sort of pressing on the officials gets the Pistons what they're looking for. But at this point, I'd be more worried about just making them rather than complaining about not getting them. Because when you shoot 65% from the free throw line, I think that's more of an issue than being 3 free throws behind the Utah Jazz. And by the way, I think the Pistons shot 12 or 13 free throws in the fourth quarter, and the Jazz might have shot in 2 or 3. Like, you want to talk about a foul discrepancy? I bet those Jazz fans would have been real upset if they ended up losing that game in the fourth quarter with the Pistons shooting that many more free throws over that span. So to me, it's kind of a non-issue. They're about where you'd expect them to be given how much they foul, and they clearly foul other teams quite a bit. I don't have much issue with some of the calls. Every now and then I do. Like that Mavs game, we can throw that out. That was the worst officiated game I've ever seen in my life, and we could just leave it right there. Outside of that, it's been pretty defensible all year. Refs are the refs, so yeah.
Yeah, and especially if you get a call on the last second shot that sends the star player to the line with an opportunity to tie or win the game. Like
a call that's never made, by the way, in Boston. Yeah. Like it's not just the fact that that's not usually a free throw attempt call. That's never made. Like it was touchy contact and Cade was going up late after he felt it. They almost never give you that, even for the side out of bounds. So, I think Cade gits the benefit of some whistles.
Yeah, and I think, like, you mentioned the Pistons shooting a lot of free throws in the fourth quarter. Like, if if it's because there was a large discrepancy for a lot of this Utah game. So I don't know. Like, I think there weren't any egregious calls in the Pistons' favor, I don't think, but it did make up for it if the Pistons shot 12, like didn't get those foul calls in the fourth quarter. Maybe we'd be having a different conversation here. But overall, I like you said, I think it's fairly a wash. When you get to the line, you got to focus on making them. And I don't think, like, anytime the Pistons play a team that has a player that is known for foul baiting, like all the talk we had around Denny Avdia and what he was doing, and the Pistons haven't played the Thunder yet, but I'm sure we'll see similar talk with Shea and everything. I don't think fans really want to see their team and their star player play that way. You have to draw fouls and you have to get to the line, but I don't think you want that to be your main strategy. So as long as it's not totally crazy difference between the two teams, I think they're okay. And it hasn't, other than those few cases that have just been horrible and impacted the Pistons when they shouldn't have. I think they've been okay.
All right, you know what? Here, I'll make one gripe, exactly one officiating gripe that I have, and I feel it is legitimate. Because I've noticed this over maybe about the past month or so. Isaiah Stewart might be all NBA defense first team. He's almost guaranteed second team, in my opinion. I think he might be first team because he's been unbelievable as a defender. Maybe this is not where the league is anymore, but I remember guys like Kevin Garnett, Ben Wallace, Dwight Howard. If it was 50-50 on whether that ball is still going up or just reached its apex and is now on its way down, those guys got the benefit of the whistle. It is time for Isaiah Stewart to get the benefit of the doubt. I have seen from my own memory now over the past just few weeks, like 4 or 5 defensive goaltendings that were 50-50 calls at best, not go Isaiah Stewart's way. He's earned that call for the same reason that Asar Thompson doesn't get the ticky-tack hip check call anymore, because the league has recognized that he's just that good of a defender. And maybe if a guy kind of struggles to turn the corner, he's actually just a very good defender. So you give him the benefit of that whistle. For the same reason we've seen that happen this year, and Asar isn't nearly in as much foul trouble as he was last year. He still is, but it's not as bad. Isaiah Stewart needs that same benefit for blocking shots. If it's 50-50, that call should not go against him. He's too good. He had 3 blocks against the Jazz still, with one of them being taken away. And it was kind of a BS one that got taken away too. It looked like it was on the way up on replay. Like, if you're not sure, refs, Isaiah Stewart's really good at blocking shots. Give him the benefit of that whistle. That's my only gripe.
Hey, I'll take that, because after that call, I was like, does Isaiah Stewart need to like back away from these a little bit more? Because you don't want to see that, obviously, when you have one of, if not the best rim protectors in the league. So if he gets the benefit of the doubt with those, I would be all for it. And I mean, obviously you want to call the game how it should be called and make the right calls, but Isaiah Stewart just being a guy who's not afraid to like get dunked on, honestly. Like, we've seen it at numerous times. Like, he's never going to shy away from trying to protect the rim, even if he's at a disadvantage. And I think he's such a smart player defensively that maybe the ref should say maybe he did get that one, because it's tough, and I don't want to see him back away from those shots. I don't think he will. I think he'll always go for it. But yeah, when the other team gets a free 2 points off it, it's a problem, and you just don't want to see it. But yeah, especially in a game where, like you said, Isaiah Stewart did have somewhat of a rough go for him. still being able to make the impact that he did was awesome to see.
Yeah, to me, this is just like in the NFL, if you see a wide receiver make a crazy catch and the refs say, well, it's 50-50, we're going to rule it a catch. We're going to think that he got it because these guys are really good. And then, you know what, if we have to review it and it's not a catch, so be it. All right, but you'd rather be wrong in that direction. And before anyone yells at me and says, well, the ref's really bad, or the NFL's really bad at like determining what's a catch and what's not, and I'll give you that. That's fair. But I saw Ben Wallace, I believe in the playoffs, I think it was the Eastern Conference Finals, block Shaquille O'Neal when he was on the Miami Heat, and it get called a jump ball. It's a famous play. I'm sure you guys all know exactly what I'm referencing. He comes up behind Shaq, comes down on Shaq, blocks it. That was a foul. If they reviewed that, that was a foul. It's an amazing play. It's on every Ben Wallace highlight reel. And justifiably so, because if it's a 50-50 call, it goes in Ben Wallace's favor. He's that kind of defender. That's the kind of thing that Isaiah Stewart needs to get. Now, he's earned that, in my opinion, so that's what I want to see. Last thing on the free throws here real quick. The Pistons were 20th in the NBA last season in free throw percentage. Right now, they're 28th. So what gives? This is from No Frown Motown.
So, all right, let's because I think that you've seen a lot, and I don't think it's been a single player like this question brings up. And we've seen like Jalen Duren has gotten a lot better as a free throw shooter over his career. He's at 72.5% this season. I think overall, it's a little bit just as a unit. I mean, there are some standouts. Like you could look to Asar Thompson, who's shooting 55% from the line on just under 4 attempts a game. And Karis LeVert should be better. He's not getting a heck of a lot of attempts, but he's at 65. So I think it's a little bit of everyone, which isn't a great answer. And if you want to go to the guy who's shooting the most foul shots a game, which is Cade Cunningham, he's shooting just under 82%, which is very good. But maybe you want to see him grow that a little bit more to some of the guys who are just the upper echelon of the league. I think it's a lot to ask for any star player to be almost like automatic from the foul line. But so like Steph Curry he's Steph Curry. So it's not a great answer, but he's shooting just under 92%. Shea, who gets to the line over 9 times a game, is just above 88%. So it's asking a lot of Cade, who already has a lot on his plate. But if he can get to that like 85%, I think that'll do a lot for the team as a unit. And Asar Thompson is probably the big one. I don't think he's magically going to jump up to a 75-80% free throw shooter, but if he can shoot a little bit better from the line, because how he plays, he is going to get to the line, that'll do a lot for the team as well. So I think, and I don't know how to solve it, honestly. I think there's a lot of stuff at hand, but overall, I just think it might be a team problem that if they just put it on themselves to get a little bit better here and there, it'll go a long way.
So I agree with the YouTube user says you want your superstar to be closer to 90 than 80. That's true. Looking last year, Cade was at 85%. This year he's at 82. So it's close, but yeah, you don't really want those 3 of 9 nights out of Cade. You'd much rather be that a 7 or 8 out of 9, right? If he's going to shoot that like you did against Utah. But I think, the real answer here, if you just look year to year, so the top 3 free throw attempters for the Pistons last season, I'm going to throw out Jaden Ivey because he only played half the year, actually just a little bit under. You had Cade Cunningham. He was at 85%, shot 5.3. Dennis Schroeder, 3.4. He was at 83%. And then Jalen Duren, 3.1. He was at 67%. Well, this year, Cade is up to 7.1 free throw attempts per game. He's at 82. Jalen Duren is at 5.9, and he improved, actually, his free throw shooting to 72.6. And then you've got Asar Thompson at 3.7, and he's shooting 55%. In fact, guys, if you just look at the Pistons this year, Asar Thompson's 3.7 free throw attempts per game. They would be second on the team last year if you just port that right over. As a team, the Pistons are shooting. Last year they shot 22. This year they're shooting 28 free throw attempts a night. So I think it's really the difference of volume. You've just got, instead of Cade and Schroeder kind of leading the way, both being above 80%, you've got Cade and Duren. And Duren's not Dennis Schroeder. He shoots about 10% worse from the stripe. And Asar Thompson's taken a bit of a step back. Last year, he was at 64% from the stripe on pretty low volume. He was only shooting, 2.4 per game. Now it's up to 3.7, and he's at 55%. So it's just, your top three is much worse than they were last year. And they're shooting more than they did last year. So, I think it's a problem. And Jalen Duren's free throw percentage is something to watch. It's been dropping as his total points numbers have been dropping. I expect that to change. He gets to the line quite a bit. His free throw attempts have actually dropped quite a bit too over the past month or so. So that's something that he's got to focus on and work on. But to me, they're going to be a little bit worse as a team. I think you'd rather have, as a team, they're at 74. You'd probably rather have that at 76. It's a marginal difference. If you could just get a little bit more out of, say, an Isaiah Stewart at 73%, if you could get that up a couple percentage points. Karis LeVert, 65% on 2 free throw attempts per game. That's odd. That's not in line with his career for that. So I think there might just be a little bit of regression to the mean, but it's not all Cade is kind of what I'm trying to say. He's worse than he was last year from the stripe, but not significantly so. It's just a couple of percentage points off. The difference is you've got 5.9 free throw attempts now as your second, which would have led the team, by the way, last year. So 5.9 is more. That's Jalen Duren. He's shooting more free throws than Cade did per game last year, and he's shooting about 13% percentage points worse from the stripe than Cade did last year. That's the difference. That's why they're not as good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as volume goes up, you want to see efficiency at least stick with that pace as well. Hopefully Cade can, like YouTube user said, get closer to 90% than 80%. Like, even if he gets to that 84 or 85% range, I think that would be a big improvement as well. And I mean, it's not everyone. Like you said, Jalen Duren is shooting better from the foul line. You want to see him get even better if possible. Tobias Harris has been a really good free throw shooter. Ron Holland has been good too for the limited attempts that he's gotten. So I think it's just, you can point to a few names like Cade, Jalen Duren, and definitely Asar Thompson, where if they make up a few percentage points, that'll go a long way to just the total, the group as a whole, because they are leading the team in free throw attempts per game. So I think that's where you can just keep an eye on it through the next 10, 20 games and see if it improves there, because if it does, it should impact the team pretty greatly as a whole.
Yeah. All right. We got another one here from Lee County Fly Dog in the DBB comments. Says, what giveth? I love that. What giveth with Jaden Ivey? Is he going to be stuck at 15 minutes per game forever? And then he says that he does like the way he's been playing defense this year. Seconded on that. I've really liked the way that J.I. has been playing defense so far this season as well. And sure enough, he played 14 minutes against the Utah Jazz, so he's clearly on that 15 minutes per game restriction still. So what do you think's kind of going on there? I guess here's the question, right? Because it's noticeable, or at least to me, it seems to leap off the TV screen that Jaden Ivey's getting some of that explosion back now. He's looking more and more like Jaden Ivey that we remember with every game that goes by. I think the shot looks good. He's looking quick. He's definitely stronger, and he's kind of transferred that over to his speed game too. So what do you think the Pistons need to see from him in order to lift this minutes restriction? Because it's not like there's anything set in stone. You guys, if with injuries like this, with his recovery, it's not like the Pistons training staff says, okay, 15 minutes a game for 2 weeks. That's not how this works. They're looking for something out of him to show that he is capable of handling the minute load that he once did, because they don't want to push him too hard too fast. So it's not a coach thing. It's not JB Bickerstaff being stubborn. This is the training staff making sure Jaden Ivey's right and ready to go. So what do you think that they're looking for in order to lift this restriction? And we could see Ivey maybe get up closer to like 20 or 25. Man, I've loved how he played, so I'd be excited for that.
Yeah, so I mean, just looking since he's been back, the most minutes he's gotten in a game was 21 against Boston a couple weeks ago. The game before that against the Hawks, he was just under 19 minutes. So, but we haven't seen him get close to 25 minutes a night or a game, other than that Boston game where it was as close as he's gotten. I thought last night, I honestly didn't think it was a minutes restriction thing. I thought it was Dennis Jenkins comes in because the offense needed a little bit of juice, and Dennis Jenkins makes 2 big threes. And because he did that, provided a little spark that wasn't perfect at times. He got a little more run than maybe he would have. I think overall, I don't know if it's so, like, I would be surprised if the restriction is Ivy just saying he's not ready, because I think what we've seen so far, he's ready for at least a few more minutes a night, and he's definitely going to lobby for himself to get as many minutes as possible. I do wonder if it is a little bit of a coaching thing, if the rotation, like when the offense hits a little bit of a slog, JB throws a curveball with Dennis Jenkins last night, some other players in other nights, but you could make the argument that Jaden Ivey could have been that curveball to keep.
Sorry, my audio cut out there for a second. Hopefully you can hear me. But we're good.
Yeah, my mic went out for a second. I apologize.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, I thought it was on my end. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll edit that out for the actual podcast.
Yeah. Sorry,
you guys
sorry,
get to have
everyone.
fun. But go on. Continue.
My mic is way too finicky. We need to address that. But just I think Jaden Ivey could have been that curveball when he has a night where he's 4 for 5 from the field, makes 3 threes. So maybe there is a bit of a restriction there, but I do really wonder if a little bit of it is just the depth of this team, and sometimes that makes Ivy the odd man out, which you don't want to see that throughout the season, because I think he's proved that he can have some more minutes and he's able to play deeper into games. So I'll be interested to keep an eye on this throughout the next few weeks, because I mean, he's been the past 2 games, he's played 14 minutes. He played 18 against Portland and just 13 the game before against Charlotte. So I think right now 15 is that sweet spot for the medical staff, for JB, and what needs to happen for him to get past that, because I think his play has certainly spoke to he should be getting more minutes for this team.
Yeah, so YouTube user brings up exactly where I was going to go. And this is, granted, I did not I did not play much for my college team, and I did not play at a high level, right? We're Division III, so it was good basketball, but these guys are NBA athletes. That's an entirely different tier. And like I said, I wasn't like a 35-minute a night guy or anything like that. But from my experience, this seems most likely to be a training staff thing, and that's not something that we're ever going to be able to see. So YouTube user says that maybe Ivy didn't feel all that great after those 18+ minute games. That's probably what this is. The training staff is looking at how he's playing when he's out there, but then more importantly, how is he feeling after the game when you're doing all of those post-game treatments for him? Because I'm sure they have a regimen that they have him do to continue with his recovery. And how is he performing there, right? And we're never going to know. We're never going to see that. So to me, it seems like the most likely scenario here is just that, however his body's reacting after those bigger minute games, like you mentioned against Boston, right? He got up over 20 minutes. It's probably the case that his leg didn't love it, and the training staff noticed that. So I think at this point it's just time. This Jaden Ivey last year when he was healthy was playing almost 30 minutes a night. I'm sure JB Bickerstaff would love to get him out more. Like you mentioned, he's played well these past couple of weeks. So I'm sure all else equal, JB would love to get Ivy out there more. And like you said, I'm sure Jaden Ivey would love to get out there more. It's almost certainly, to me, it seems almost certain that it would be the training staff that's saying, well, JB, look, in these recovery workouts that we're doing with him after these games, not only is he sore, but maybe he's a little bit there's something going on there that they're just not ready to clear it, that he's 100% ready to go back to his previous minute load. So to me, I guess that's what's going on. There's probably a strict minutes restriction. It's right at 15 minutes a game. And they worked that out. The training staff worked that out. And they're just waiting to see how he responds after these games to see if his body's really ready to go. And it's probably not yet. Unfortunately. I'd love to see him more too. You might be muted.
My mic. Apologies, everyone. But Ivy has been back for 16 games, so maybe it is like a 20-game reassessment point, which puts him after the game in Cleveland in time for when the Pistons are home January 5th against the Knicks. Maybe you look at that to see if things changed at that point. Who knows? It could be something else, but I think. It could still be like a training staff thing and keeping him locked up a little bit. So maybe there is a reassessment point at some point that's coming up, because it feels like Ivy's been back for a while, but it has only been 16 games. So he probably still is ramping up a bit.
All right, we are going to save some of these questions on the trade deadline for our next show. We got a good one from Swan Jeezy in the DBB comments. We'll save that for next week. Our guy Caleb also mentioned a trade deadline question. So again, we're going to push those to last week. But I think that this voicemail question we have is going to be short and sweet. So let's hit on that, and then we will close out the show. So here is our voicemail question.
My question is, all things being equal, would you trade Cade for Luka, even up?
All right. So now this is, I don't know, our unnamed caller, I don't know if they are aware that this is a long-running Pistons Twitter and actually DBB Live all the way back in the day when this show was not called the Pindown, but it was called DBB Live that first summer that Jack Kelly and I, our guy from Australia, were doing this show as a live chat. But we would get this question a lot, and this was a couple years ago now, but it makes a return. Cade Cunningham straight up for Luka Doncic. Short and sweet. What do you got, Blake?
So this will never happen, clearly. And I still think, hey, it's a good talking point, because similar players that have similar gravity. Luka's leading the league in scoring. But no, I don't think you can deal your homegrown superstar for really anyone, even a Luka Doncic. And I mean, I don't think the Lakers would ever do this. I don't think the Pistons would ever do this, because how does it make sense? I think you're going to two similar players, and maybe one front office prefers one to the other, but I don't think you'd ever see a trade of this magnitude, which is crazy to say, because we saw a trade of insane magnitude when Luka Doncic was dealt last year. But even in that, you saw the Mavs, shout out to Nico Harrison, but trade for different archetypes of player. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see a superstar for superstar straight up. So yeah, it would never happen. It's a good conversation, but for me, the answer is no.
My answer is no as well. Look, Cade's a better defender than Luka. Luka's a better offensive player. I think that Luka offensively is kind of like, 1.5 what Cade is, just about every stat. You look at there, free throws, points, all that good stuff. And that's all great. I think Cade's a better defender, so you got a little bit of a trade-off there. Cade's a bit younger. But look, he's your homegrown star. And Cade in his own right, like, this to me made so much more sense when, Cade Cunningham was just coming off of his rookie year, right? And you were like, well, you're looking at the potential of Cade versus what Luka already is. We didn't know that the Mavs would trade Luka, so I guess it was always more plausible than we ever really gave it credit for. But now when both of these players are arguably top 5 in the league, I think you're talking about Cade Cunningham at a minimum. He's a top 7 NBA basketball player to me. That's why he's in that conversation for all NBA first team. And you might get it depending on how all these injuries go, because the game's minimum restriction on that. But my point is, when you're looking at, like, well, would you trade for, number 3 best player for number 6 best player? Who cares? You've got the 6th best player in the league. Let's just focus on what we've got and appreciate the amazing player that Cade Cunningham really has become, with some room to grow. You look at his numbers, make a few more free throws, make another 3-pointer, like, all of a sudden he's a 30-point per game scorer, and I think that's all attainable. So no, Cade Cunningham, he's more Detroit. That's why I'll say that. That's my reasoning, even though I've completely made it up. He's more Detroit, so I want to keep him. That's why. Just keep him here at all costs, no matter who else is on the table. I mean, I don't think untouchable, 100%.
I think no matter what, if any other team asks about Cade Cunningham, that conversation is going to be pretty short, no matter what's at hand. So, but it's fun because of the echelon of players that both those guys are. So, shout out to our unnamed caller for using the voice line. Just a reminder that anyone can call that number to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.